Good evening. My name is Jan Liggett, Mayor and Chair of this council meeting. Before continuing, we will rise from closed session. May I have, Councillor Mehta, you have that motion. Could you please state it?
Well, thank you, Mayor Jan. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Schwery, that council rise from closed session and reconvene in open session at 6:31 p.m.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll do that vote.
And opening voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
During closed session, discussions occurred with council and staff related to a confidential advisory committee update, advisory committee appointments, confidential litigation updates, and confidential legal advice. Please note that City of Cambridge Council meetings are broadcast on the city's YouTube page and are archived on the city's website. It is imperative that we as City Council promote public participation using a variety of methods, including YouTube. On that note, our last council meeting had 210 views on YouTube and 0 delegations. For staff and delegates alike, please be sure that you stand 6 to 8 inches from the microphone at the presenter's podium for optimal sound. There is a remote at the podium you may use to advance your slides. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers using the nearest exit staircase, and should you require assistance, please see our clerk staff. They will provide you with support to exit the facility. Once you have evacuated the building, please gather outside of City Hall in the Farmers Market parking lot and await further instructions. It is my pleasure to introduce council. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Ermetta, Councillor Kimson, Councillor Roberts, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Schwery, Councillor Earnshaw sends his regrets, and Councillor Devine. We will now sing the national anthem, and if you are able, please rise and follow along. We embrace our shared responsibility with the First Nations people to take care of this earth and its creatures. We can only do so by walking the path as partners stewarding this land, since we have been given the duty together to live in balance and harmony with all living things. We acknowledge and respect the Anishinaabe, Chinootan, and the Haudenosaunee peoples who came before us and who we live amongst. By honoring this truth of past and present, may we come to true reconciliation through listening, reflecting, and learning. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank everyone for joining us for this meeting. We do appreciate your participation. As we come together to serve the community, I ask that we create a welcoming and positive environment for everyone. That includes respect, that we listen to each other with care, speak thoughtfully, and engage kindly with one another. Kindness, that we treat everyone, council staff, and the public with respect and understanding. And inclusion, that we embrace diverse perspectives and respect each other's opinions. Together, we can make this meeting space one where respect, kindness, and inclusion are at the heart of everything we do, that this is a safe space. Behavior that is disrespectful, disruptive, aggressive, or intimidating will result in those individuals being asked to leave. A reminder to members of council that the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act requires council members to declare any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to a matter under consideration. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? I see none. Our first item for consideration is the consent agenda. And we have Councillor Cooper as the mover for that item.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, wasn't quite ready for that. Okay, this is moved by me, seconded by Councillor Devine, that all items listed under the heading of consent agenda for July 22nd, 2025 be adopted as recommended. 8.1, Council meeting minutes, July 8th, 2025. 8.2, Council information package, July 11th, 2025. 8.3, 25007 CD, Cooper Street parking lot regulation update. 8.4, 25-071 CD, traffic and parking bylaw updates. 8.5, 25080 CD, 90 Old Mill Road, Sheave Tower, passing of amending designation bylaw. 8.6, 25025 CRS 2025, operating financial update, April forecast. 8.7, 25035 CRS, fire apparatus procurement approval. 8.8, 25013 IFS, capital status and forecast report, April 2025.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to comment on any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll call for that vote.
And opening voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
We will now move into consideration of reports. Our first report is item number 9.1.1, Report 25-034, CRS appointments to advisory committees. May I have the mover read the motion? Councillor Kimson.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jan. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Recommendation that Report 25-034-CRS, appointments to citizen advisory committees, be received, and that confidential appendices C, D, E, F, and G to Report 25-034-CRS be received and remain confidential, and that the following individual be appointed to the Arthur White Sports Bursary for the term of council ending November 14th, 2026, Sean Corrigan as a voting member, and that the following individual be appointed to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee for the term of council ending November 14th, 2026, Tessa McLeod as a voting member, and that the following individual be appointed to the Cambridge Farmers Market Advisory Committee for the term of council ending November 14th, 2026. Ingrid Telpeck as a voting member and John Smithers as an alternate non-voting member. And that the following individuals be appointed to the Committee of Adjustment for the term of council ending November 14th, 2026. Robert Rapol as a voting member, and Jeff Donkersgood and Aidan Pereira as alternate non-voting members. And that the following individual be appointed to the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee for the term of council ending November 14th, 2026, Adele Sommerfeld as an alternate non-voting member. And that the city clerk be directed to notify all successful and unsuccessful applicants. And further, that council-appointed citizen members to the city's advisory committees who do not submit their signed code of conduct form within the first month after their appointment has been made shall forfeit their committee membership.
Are there any questions? Any comments? Okay, we'll do that vote.
Opening voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
The next item for consideration is item number 9.2.1, Report 25-007, CRE Core Areas Transformation Fund Placemaking Funding Request. We have one pre-registered delegate for this item, Mackenzie Meek and Emma Kemper. You will have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Council, for considering Cambridge Mills CADIF application for the Downtown Cambridge River Lighting Project. My name is Mackenzie Meek, and I am the in-house planner for Pearl Hospitality, including the Cambridge Mill. Joining me is Emma Kemper, also representing the Cambridge Mill, as well as Danielle Wodenak from Gabriel McKinnon, who is the lighting designer who put together the design, and she is available by Zoom if there's any questions after our presentation. So I'd first like to extend our appreciation to Economic Development staff for their report and recommendation that Council approve the CADIF request. Our team is here today to confirm our enthusiastic support for staff's recommendation, to provide some additional insight on the project, and also to be available to answer any questions that Council may have for us.
So the proposed project envisions a captivating riverfront lighting installation within downtown Cambridge that's thoughtfully designed to illuminate the Grand River at the Dixon Falls, as well as the surrounding landscapes, including the Park Hill Bridge and the face of Cambridge Mill. The river and these adjacent features are all key landmarks that do contribute to the fabric of Cambridge that are celebrated by both residents and visitors. Currently, however, once the sun sets, the visibility in these assets does go down significantly. The primary goal of this initiative is to extend the hours in which these assets can be enjoyed. Ultimately, this project is really intended to cultivate the community pride and deliver a vibrant, memorable nighttime experience in the very heart of Cambridge.
So as noted in the staff report, the project meets all of the criteria of the CADIF program, and it's also aligned with the city's strategic direction. The project will draw the community to engage with local assets. It's going to cultivate a creative atmosphere, and it's also going to encourage locals and visitors to engage with businesses in the core by creating a vibrancy downtown after hours. So a large part, also the features that will be lit are going to be accessible by many publicly accessible access points, including the Dixon Lookout, the Park Hill Bridge, as well as the trails along the Grand River. A key feature of this concept is that the lighting is intended to have color programmable lights so that they can be changed from their typical white to different colors to coincide with different community events or with holidays. So as you can see in this rendering, it could be turned red and white for Canada Day. It can coincide for events like the Christmas train, and it can also be coordinated with other lighting installations throughout the city.
While the project we are proposing is exciting and represents the kind of forward-thinking initiative we believe Cambridge deserves, it's also important to note that river lighting projects are by no means unprecedented, and there are countless examples of this concept both locally and globally. A great example of this is actually the Hespeler Lighting Project that was recently approved to receive CATF funding, which demonstrates that there is an appetite for this kind of public realm enhancement in Cambridge. Beyond Cambridge, we have also included some examples of lighting installations in other cities, such as Paris, Ontario, and another in London, England, which of course represent this idea on a much larger and international scale. Now, what these examples demonstrate is a growing recognition of the power and of thoughtfully lighting designs, not only to transform a waterfront, but to really elevate and celebrate the city's natural features and build heritage in a very meaningful way. While this type of initiative is gaining popularity in many places, we believe that we are proposing here today is something truly uniquely special to Cambridge, and is an elevated and intentional concept that does reflect the character of Cambridge and really does offer something its citizens can be proud of and genuinely connect with.
So as part of our application, we worked very closely alongside city staff to get to this point, and as part of that, we went through a number of considerations in the design and looked at ways to address them thoughtfully. So a few examples of that included using best practices and advice from professionals when it comes to natural environment considerations and mitigation measures, putting thought into how the fixtures are actually installed to prevent vandalism, but also ensure that they'll be able to stay long-term considering high river levels. And we've also thought ahead of how the lights are going to be operated and maintained long-term. So pending approval by the city's participation in this project, we'll have the ability to really finalize the design and fine-tune how these considerations are addressed. So with that, we're kindly requesting council's support to approve our CADIF application so that the city can participate with the Cambridge Mill in this transformational lighting project, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jannon, through you, and thank you both for your presentation. I know in the report you spoke extensively about some of the work that had been done around the environmental piece and how you're going to protect the fish and some of the natural habitats there. Can you speak a little bit to some of the work that's been done and how it's not going to impact them negatively?
Definitely. So as part of the preliminary design, our lighting consultant has used best practices, including dark light compliance, to ensure that we are incorporating mitigation measures. But pending approval of city to participate with us in this project, we are going to engage an ecologist to do a screening to confirm what species could be impacted by the project, and then B, assess if there would be negative impacts on the species at risk. I have had some preliminary discussions with ecologists, and on reviewing the project, they believe there will not be any risks to the natural environment or negative impacts to species at risk. And again, that's based on some of the mitigations we've already incorporated, which includes turning off the lights by a certain time of night, not turning them on at all during certain times of year. So again, using those best practices that are incorporated in many other lighting projects into this project.
Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor Liggett. Through you, thank you both for your presentation. My question just had to do with a comment on page 352. I guess I have two related questions about costs. But the first one says that Pearl Hospitality will continue with ongoing operation and maintenance, including any future repair costs should the lighting be damaged. So to what extent is Pearl going to cover the costs and the maintenance and the upkeep of the lighting? And also, is this forever, or is there going to be a time limit on this, or maybe 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, the city may have to contribute?
Yep, so in speaking with economic development staff, it's been indicated to us that the city cannot long-term maintain the light fixtures. So in wanting to see this project through, we are willing to commit to maintain and operate it with the lighting being powered from our site. And the intent is this to be as long-term as possible. Definitely not a short-term proposal, but something we want seen stayed in the project's area.
You may have a follow-up question on costs. Thank you, Mayor Liggett. So following up on costs, so thank you for the answer, by the way. So if Pearl is going to continue paying for the operation and the maintenance, will the city be paying for anything here, like part of the installation, or will Pearl be footing the bill?
It's been indicated to us that the city would not contribute anything beyond the contribution through the CADIF. We'd obviously be open to long-term maintenance contribution, but at this point, it's expected that Pearl would be maintaining it long-term.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Cooper?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Liggett. Thanks for the presentation. I'm excited about this. I've got a very simple question for you. I apologize if it's somewhere in this report that I've missed, but do you guys have a rough kind of time frame for when the on switch will be flipped?
Yes, our answer is always as soon as possible. So pending approval for city's participation, I have everything lined up to proceed with the detailed design and any other requirements needing to be satisfied to go ahead with the installation.
You can give me a ballpark, can't you?
Hopefully in the fall, we can start looking potentially at installation.
That's
If
fine.
everything goes well, and I'm very optimistic, so I'll say that.
Thank you.
Councillor Kimson?
Thank you very much, Mary Jan, and through you, thanks for your presentation. I'm wondering if you've had any consultation with the Indigenous community about this proposal. I don't see it listed in the internal and external consultation, but just knowing the ties to the river, I'm wondering if they've been consulted with this project.
At this time, we've left it up with staff to do the circulation, so as far as I'm aware, they have not been circulated.
May I follow up? Thank you. And is that something that you would be willing to do at this point prior to the project moving forward?
Yeah, if we're required, we're definitely open to that.
Thank you.
Councillor Kimson, that's staff's responsibility. That was something I was going to bring up when this comes forward, because that's a must. That must happen, and that won't be their responsibility, it'd be our responsibility to do that. So, thank you. I see no more. Thank you.
Thank you.
So may I please have the mover, Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor Jan. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ermetta. Recommendation that report 25-007-CRE Core Area Transformation Fund Installation and Placemaking Funding Request be received, and that council approve the Core Area Transformation Fund CADF funding request from Pearl Hospitality for proposed lighting installation on Park Hill Bridge in downtown Cambridge.
Are there any questions of staff here? I have, if somebody could come up to the podium. Are there any questions that anybody else has first? Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor Leggett, and through you. Hi, Michael. Just wondering the longevity of the proposed lighting installation. How long would the bulbs last? And I assume they're LED, like they're not going to be incandescent?
Through you, Mayor Jan. So I think that's a question that I would likely have to defer to the lighting consultant. This is contemplated as a permanent installation. The lifespan specifically, I couldn't speak to, but we can certainly bring that information back once we have a more detailed, a finalized concept in place.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the lighting consultant in the waiting room, which we can bring in if you'd like, Councillor Hamilton. Okay. So in the meantime, I will, Mike.
Sorry, I'm just trying to coordinate here details of that. I'm not sure if our IT friends have.
We're going to bring in the lighting consultant. But I have a question with regards to, when we look at our land acknowledgement, it speaks specifically to being given the duty together to live in balance and harmony with all living things and stewarding this land together as partners. And yet, as Councillor Kimson pointed out, nowhere in the external consultation do I see Six Nations or First Nations, which is a requirement for us to do that. So when is that going to happen?
Thanks for the question, Mayor Jan, and through you. So I think, that's certainly something, I guess I will call it an oversight based on the policy that we have in place and our requirements to engage our community members. My suggestion would be, I'm not sure the mechanism to do this, but we do have a series of criteria identified in the report. I apologize, I don't have the page number on my package here, but we do have a list of 6 criterion points that we are requiring Pearl Hospitality to satisfy before we provide approval of any funding on this. We could add that requirement to that list to ensure that they go through that work to satisfy the requirements that were in front of them.
So is that the same as having the Ministry of the federal and provincial ministries to do with the environmental fisheries and all that? Is that part of that?
Yes, so that would be one of the requirements here. So we have consultation, I'm paraphrasing here, but consultation with the GRCA, a formal agreement with the Region of Waterloo, resolution of outstanding encroachments with the GRCA, a thorough screening of species at risk through the Ministry of the Environment, and then a couple other design detail points there, so you could add it to that.
So if we approve this tonight, that's still all going to happen? So that's like a fail-safe here for us? Okay, do we have the consultant ready? Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Danielle. This is Mayor Liggett here. Councillor Hamilton is going to repeat his question for you.
Perfect.
Hi there, thank you for joining us, and thank you, Mayor Liggett, through you. My question had to do with the longevity of the lighting system that will be installed and the nature of the bulbs. Will they be LED or incandescent or something else? Thank you.
The project is using all LED equipment, the sort of highest end of exterior grade equipment that we would recommend on any sort of municipal level project. I just checked the estimated lifespan for the products that we would specify for this project, and they are projected at around 170,000 hours, which works out to about 34 years of operation. If it's only by night, it would actually be a little longer than that because we're not operating for the full night. We'd be turning off at 11 p.m. or midnight in accordance with the best practices for night illumination of natural environments, as Mackenzie indicated. So that's not to say that every piece of equipment will last for 34 years, but that's the estimated lifespan. The equipment has a 5-year warranty. We've seen projects operating for well upwards of 10 years. The first thing to go would be a driver. That would be a replaceable part. So.
And apologies, what is a driver? Sorry.
That's a good question. Sorry, I'm sometimes guilty of speaking lighting speak. Driver is acts as a transformer in a way from the line voltage to transform the voltage to a voltage that is usable by the LED chips that are built in. So they're integral source LED fixtures, and all of those parts are designed to be maintainable, not super easily, because these are really robust weatherproof fixtures. You would probably want to take it down, send it to the factory, get it serviced, and put it back up. But it is a possibility. So we would expect them to last upwards of 10 years in the field and closer to 20, but difficult to foresee without knowing the exact conditions. They're really robust equipment, so.
That's quite a long time, and thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I have a question for you, though. With the lighting that's to be put on the bridge is to be directed straight at the falls, correct?
A slight downward angle is projected from our understanding of the site geometry.
So it's supposed to go and hit the falls where there's no fish or anything. Okay, so how is it adjustable after installation? Like what happens if we find out that it's not going where we want it to go?
So we've recommended to do a mock-up process where we would take some of the proposed equipment and sort of hold it in place, often on like a ladder or a boom truck, or we drop it on a piece of 2x4 over the bridge to the rough location. We can test out the geometry that way and make sure that we have a good beam spread. So we would do that process first. The fixtures do have an adjustable bracket that has tools that you would use on either side to lock it in place, and then it's adjustable within fine degrees.
Are there any more questions? No, I see none. Thank you very much for attending.
Honored to be here. Thanks.
Okay, are there any comments from anybody on this? Councillor Cooper?
Yes, thank you, Chair Liggett. I just want to say I'm incredibly excited about this. I think this is going to look incredible. I really do. This goes in line with what we've planned for, what we have coming for Jacob's Landing. And I'm also intimately familiar with what the same kind of lighting scenario looks like over on the pedestrian bridge. I spend a lot of time actually in the balconies above it. And it's just incredible to look at. And in fact, there was a time a few months back where I believe, unfortunately, whatever operated it got vandalized, and it was down for maybe a week or two. The effect was huge. It was just this open black space. And it really emphasized just how much beauty it added to this area. And I feel when I take a look at what's being planned here, I think it's going to overshadow that, which is fantastic. I think when we see this, we're probably going to think, why didn't we do this years ago? So I just want to thank the Mill and Pearl Hospitality for doing this. This is a wonderful partnership. I just can't wait to see it in operation. I think this is going to be fantastic for tourism, for the residents. Yeah, excited, obviously. Thank you.
Councillor Schwery.
Thank you, Mayor Liggett. And I echo what Councillor Cooper said, but I won't use that many words. I think it's going to be stunning, and I think it'll bring a lot of foot traffic and people walking around, so I'm really excited to see it.
Councillor Hamilton, and please mind what Councillor Schwery said.
Well, thank you. No, I think this will be a beautiful way to celebrate the river. I just wanted to give a shout out to a former councillor, Shannon Atshade, because when I first joined council, he was very excited to light up the rivers in exactly this way. And I remember him going to Cheryl Ayers saying, how can we do this? How can it cost? How much is it going to cost? So I just, yeah, Shannon Atshade came to mind, and somewhere in Cambridge right now, I think Shannon Atshade is smiling. Thank you.
Councillor Kimpson.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jan. I do echo other councillors in that this is going to be a beautiful addition. I do wonder if we could add do we need to add consultation with the Indigenous community, or is that something that staff have been directed to do? I'm just wondering where we stand with that.
I think staff know that they have to do that, but if you feel better adding that to the motion, you can put an amendment on the floor to that effect. It's up to you.
Thank you, Mayor Jan. I think we've been quite clear that we want to have the meaningful consultation, and hopefully all goes well and we can get this moving along. Thank you.
So I'm going to comment. I remember when Councillor Atshade brought that forward, actually, and the same concerns were stated back then about how it would affect the fish and the creatures of the water. This is a great opportunity for the City of Cambridge. I'm 100% supportive, and thank you. Kudos to Pearl Hospitality for applying for this and dreaming this up. I think it's great. I'm looking forward to seeing this, and I'm ready to take the vote.
And starting voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
We have item number 9.2.2, Report 25-006, CRE Greenhouse Gas Emissions Reduction Feasibility Study. We have Will Wright from Walter Feddy providing a presentation tonight.
Hello, everyone.
You have 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So thanks for having us out tonight. I'm Will Wright, energy analyst from Walter Feddy, a multidisciplinary engineering design firm up the road in Kitchener, and I'm here with David Broderick, who is one of our senior engineers on this project. So what we did, we were engaged by the City of Cambridge to perform a series of GHG reduction pathway studies aligned with the FCM Community Buildings Retrofit Initiative. We identified 10 different buildings that presented the most opportunity for greenhouse gas emission reductions, as you can see on the right side of the slide here. What the studies entailed were assessments of the existing conditions of each of these facilities through site surveys and review of historical utility consumption data, and by reviewing this information, we were able to create calibrated energy models of each of these 10 buildings. And using the information achieved or highlighted through the energy models, we were able to create a series of energy conservation measures for each of these buildings and compile those measures into a series of different GHG reduction scenarios. And the scenario that I'd like to highlight here today is the FCM minimum performance roadmap scenario, which was required as per the guidelines of the program, which achieves a 50% reduction in operational greenhouse gas emissions within the next 10 years and 80% within the next 20. So to begin the process of constructing the models, we reviewed existing equipment on site, existing building drawings, metered utility data, air tightness testing results, as well as engineering calculations. And we've included an example of a calibrated baseline energy model here on the right, with the pink bars on the left representing actual utility data from historical utility consumption data, and on the right representing our energy model that we've created with a series of different energy end uses. This example is the new City Hall, showing energy uses such as fan energy, cooling, lighting, etc. So different energy conservation measures that we considered included fuel switching from natural gas equipment to electricity, upgrades of the exterior envelope, optimization of existing equipment, installation of renewable energy generation, as well as refrigeration improvements where applicable for ice rinks. So we created these lists of measures for all 10 facilities, and then this plot here is a compilation of each of those, each of the recommended measures for each facility, and assuming each of those measures is implemented over the next 20 years, aligned with the requirements of the FCM program, while also considering the expected lifetime of existing equipment. So as you can see here, this plot shows a greater than 50% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2033, which is 10 years out from our assumed baseline of 2023, and then a greater than 80% reduction in the year of 2043. We've also included a plot here showing the estimated utility costs, the annual utility costs, if all these measures are implemented. So you can see here, utility costs are expected to rise year over year, particularly electricity, as we undertake these conversions from natural gas to electricity, as well as the effect of inflation can be seen here as well. So all this information is highlighted in this graph, or in this table here, excuse me. What we are estimating for the year of 2050, if these measures are implemented, we are assuming a reduction in over 1,400 tons of CO2 equivalent per year, and annual utility costs are expected to decrease in the ballpark of $400,000 a year. We've also highlighted the cumulative, so the total greenhouse gas emissions over the course of the analysis from present day to 2050. And we estimate that over that span, we can see approximately 30,000 tons of CO2 being eliminated. And on the financial side, the life cycle cost of the proposed scenario is around $51 million versus 36, considering a business as usual case, replacing equipment like for like, which represents a net present value of the FCM minimum scenario of $14 million. So in summary, the main purpose of these feasibility studies is to unlock funding in order to actually implement these measures, which the City of Cambridge is now able to do. And now we'll take any questions or comments from council.
Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Schwery.
Thank you, Mayor Liggett. It's very expensive. Electricity, you're saying costs are going to increase. Are you taking into consideration when you're saying that the CO2 is going to drop immigration? Because if you add immigration to all this, these numbers would not be accurate. It would maybe be more expensive, and it might not get the result you want, or you're assuming?
So I think I'd like to, the purpose of this study is focused on individual buildings. And this question, I think, based on our understanding of the buildings that we've analyzed, they're being used to a level of maybe not maximized, but they're being used to a point where population growth might not necessarily affect these buildings' energy consumption as much as the construction of a new building would. If that answers the question. I don't know if David or Ryan, you wanted to contribute to that as well? Okay, and then I just want to highlight your comment about utility costs and electricity being more expensive. Because of the efficiencies of the proposed air source heat pump measures, so replacing natural gas fired equipment with air source heat pumps, because of the efficiencies that this equipment is able to achieve, the amount of energy that will be required to heat and cool buildings is going to be significantly reduced. So even though electricity is the more expensive fuel, just because of the energy savings that we're able to achieve, utility costs are expected to decrease. And for this specific equipment, it's unlikely that a utility cost would increase going from natural gas to electricity.
Thanks.
Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor Jan. Thanks for your presentation. Can you speak a little bit to some of the projects that the community buildings retrofit could help offset in terms of the costs associated to doing some of those upgrades? So what specifically within some of these spaces could we look at applying for this grant?
So in terms of like which projects specifically, like each of these projects can kind of be used in the application for the funding. The funding is up to $10 million per municipality, so it can either be done through one very large project or a series of projects with kind of iterative applications. But either way, it's up to $10 million, which is a mixture of grant funding and loans. And these grants and loans could be applied to any of the different measures that we've identified through this project. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor Leggett, through you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I know your report indicated you could say the cost to the city would be about 14 million, but you indicated a utility savings of about $400,000 per year. So just ballparking it, would we say we'd pretty much break even between 30 and 40 years, but we would have the reduction in emissions and everything that goes along with it at that point?
So I'll highlight the life cycle cost and the net present value that we've identified. That takes into account utility savings. So considering all utility savings and the cost of procuring the equipment that's featured in these measures, it would be a cost to the city overall over the period of analysis of $14 million. So basically what that means is in order to break even, the city would need to acquire $14 million worth of funding. So that would be from the FCM program, which is a maximum of up to 10, and then an additional 4 from other sources.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
I see no more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Devine, you have that motion. Would you like the clerk to read it, or are you okay reading it?
I can manage, thank you.
Okay.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Roberts. Recommendation that report 25006 CRE greenhouse gas emission reduction feasibility study be received, and that the implementation of the study be referred to the annual business planning and budget process. I so move.
Are there any questions from members of council or comments? Councillor Kimson?
Thank you very much, Mayor Jan. I noted in here when they were talking about the greenhouse gas emissions, specifically as they relate to Dixon Arena and Duncan McIntosh Arena, the use of propane in the ice resurfacers. How many ice resurfacers do we have that require propane? Because I thought that we were also in the process of switching them over to different models, and I'm wondering if that's something that perhaps over time we'll be doing with them all.
Mr. Shaw, are you prepared to answer that question?
Yeah, so we do have currently 3 electric battery-operated ice resurfacers, and as the other 2 or 3 we have, as they come due for replacement, they'll be replaced with the battery-operated electric resurfacers.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no more questions. We'll take that vote.
Starting voting. Closing voting. And that carries 7-1.
We will move on to item number 9.3.1, Report 25-060-CD Recommendation Report for Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw Amendment, 312 St. Andrew Street. And we have Scott Patterson from Patterson Planning Consultants providing a presentation tonight. Welcome again, once again.
Good evening, Council. Scott Patterson here this evening. Pleased to be back before you regarding 312 St. Andrew Street. So just a quick air photo of the subject property to refresh Council. It's an existing lot with an area of approximately 2,600 square meters. Council, just to refresh you again, the site is encumbered by an easement on the south side of the property, being roughly 9 meters in width. And there is a regional road widening of a small area along St. Andrew Street. So as council may recall, we had a public meeting on May the 6th for this official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. At that time, we were proposing a 24-unit mixed terrace stacked townhouse development with 31 parking spaces, 4 extra tandem parking spaces, and 79 square meters of on-site amenity area. And this is the site plan that was presented to council at that time. So at the public meeting, we heard issues with the tree removals on site, the location of the garbage facility, and the location of the amenity area, both being very in close proximity to the existing houses to the south. As a result of that public meeting, we've made changes to the plan. The project is now 23 units instead of 24. We've created an indoor bicycle storage room and mechanical room. There are 29 parking spaces proposed. We've increased the amount of on-site amenity area to 144 square meters. We've included balconies for private amenity space for 6 of the units. Created an on-site turnaround area for garbage vehicles as well as residents. We've relocated the amenity and garbage facilities and moved the garbage facilities to be an in-ground. As a result of discussions with staff, all permanent structures have been removed from the easement area, allowing for that area to be landscaped. And we've increased or provided for barrier-free access to the front of the building. This results in a project that has 13 one-bedroom units, 9 two-bedroom units, and 1 four-bedroom unit. And this is the updated site plan as a result of those changes. You can see that the amenity area and the garbage area that was proposed in the rear yard area of the abutting residence has been relocated. Just an update on the elevation. The area highlighted in red is the new balconies that are proposed. So there'd be 6 balconies for the proposed building. This is the elevation that faces internal towards the parking lot. And the elevation facing towards the commercial plaza to the north. Again, limited windows on this elevation as a result of the noise study and the prohibition on windows for certain areas. The elevation of the proposed building facing towards St. Andrew Street. and the elevation facing towards the existing neighbors to the south. Again, no windows on that elevation to prevent overlook. So as mentioned, we've relocated the amenity area on site and increased its size. And we've also provided the garbage facilities to be in-ground facilities. Move those as far away from the abutting or neighboring residents as far as we could. And just closing comments, as noted, we've updated the site plan layout to address comments from the neighbors, council, and staff. I have reviewed the staff report and the text of the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment before you this evening. I hear in full support of the staff report and recommendation. And the next step, should this be successful tonight, would be the site plan approval, where we would look at landscaping, lighting, and all of the other details to protect the neighbors and ensure that we have a worthwhile project for the city of Cambridge. If there's any questions this evening, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions from council? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor Jannon, through you. Thanks so much, Scott, for your presentation. I just have a question about the landscape strip that's going to be between the property and the closest neighbor. Can you speak a little bit more about what that looks like? What kind of landscaping will be included there? Is there any retention of some of the trees, or what's going to be happening there?
Through your worship, yes, a tree management plan has been prepared in draft. That will be submitted as part of the site plan application to see what trees we can maintain based on the grading. The zoning bylaw before you also contains provision for enhanced landscaping along that strip as well, which we're in full support of. And ultimately, it'll be a discussion with staff, again, should this receive approvals, about what the landscaping through that area encompasses. The size of trees, the type of trees, and what's suitable to provide that buffering to the neighbors, whether it's deciduous or coniferous trees. But that's a discussion with our landscape architect and working with city staff to achieve that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Liggett, and through you, and thanks, Scott, for your presentation. I was just hoping you could comment more on the proposed amenity area. You notice on page 411, there's kind of an approximate amenity area, and then the kind of really existing amenity area for now, because it says the applicant has not yet demonstrated this area can be graded to function as a usable amenity area. So can you tell us more about that area, how that grading will really occur, and what the hope is for that to be usable?
Through your worship to Councillor Hamilton. So the amenity area on site is what I'd circled for you. Sorry, I'll just go back to that. So that's that area there. So that would actually be a defined programmed area on site for passive and active recreation. I believe in the staff report, it also speaks to the residents being able to use Byton Park, which I spoke about at the public meeting. So the area to the south of the proposed building, that will not be used for amenity. I think what the staff report alludes to is that it will have to be looked at in detail through the detailed grading design, but the intent more so would be that that would be an actual landscaped area to provide that buffer and that necessary screening and block to the neighbors. So yeah, the amenity area has definitely changed on site in location, and the zoning bylaw requirement specifically recognizes the 144 square meters that are proposed in the red circle on the screen.
Thank you.
I don't see any more questions, but I'd like to say thank you for listening to the neighbors and to councillors' concerns and the work that you've done in bringing that forward tonight. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
We have Vincent Wen, our planner, providing a presentation on this too.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, staff, and all in attendance tonight. My name is Vincent Wen. I'm a planner with the city. I'm here to present the staff recommendation for the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application at 312 St. Andrews Street. The subject property is located within the built-up area and fronts onto St. Andrews Street. A 23-unit stacked townhouse dwelling is proposed with 29 parking spaces on site. The property is designated a low-medium density residential in the city's official plan. Currently, a maximum of 40 units per hectare is permitted, which is approximately 10 units based on a site area of 0.259 hectares. The official plan amendment seeks to add a site-specific policy that removes the maximum density restriction for these lands. However, the applicant proposes 23 units, which will be constrained by existing and proposed zoning provisions to regulate the form of development. A zoning bylaw amendment is requested to rezone the property from residential R3 to multiple residential RM3 with site-specific provisions to facilitate the development. This includes things such as the maximum building height provision, which is added to reflect the city's draft form-based zoning bylaw, where adjacent residential properties are to be zoned R2, which would permit a maximum building height of 4 stories and 14 meters. A minimum common amenity area of 6 square meters per unit will be provided, and additional private amenity areas through the form of balconies are proposed for 6 units at a rate of 6 square meters per unit. Staff have included the provision to prohibit buildings and permanent structures within the municipal easement, as well as a planting strip containing trees and vegetation not less than 1.5 meters in height along the southern lot line, as well as the region of water loop prohibits geothermal wells. The following comments are received from the statutory public meeting that was held on May 6, 2025. Site plan approval is required for the proposed development. The preservation of trees, accessibility, lighting, location of garbage facilities will be evaluated further through the site plan process, but this includes a tree management plan to inventory the trees on site, identify trees to be removed, and measures for remediation. This will also be subject to the city's private tree bylaw and site alteration bylaw. A photometric plan indicating lighting to be directed away from adjacent properties to minimize glare and light pollution will also be included in the site plan, as well as accessible building design and features. And as seen in the latest concept plan, the location of garbage facilities has been relocated away from the adjacent residents. Also, with privacy from adjacent properties, staff have added that provision to include trees and vegetations not less than 1.5 meters in height along the southern lot line. The proposed building won't have any windows on that south-facing elevation, and there will be a 9.2 meter interior side yard setback from that southern lot line. Shown here on this slide is a revised concept plan through the second submission. So you can see here, label number 1 is the garbage facilities being relocated. Number 2 here shows the provision we've added for an enhanced planting strip containing mature vegetation. And number 3 here shows the location of the common amenity area, which has been increased from 79 square meters to 144 square meters. The proposal is consistent with provincial, regional, and city policy. The proposal will provide additional housing within the built-up area. Planning staff recommend approval of the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment as presented in the staff report. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor Jannon, through you, and thanks so much for your presentation, Vincent. I have a couple of questions, but I'm just going to start with the first one. So the property in behind, I've had a couple of residents reach out with concerns about any impact on that open space property that's in behind. So that would be behind this area, buffering between, I guess, Wedgwood and this property. So it would be, it's not actually, you can kind of see it in this, it's just to the left of where the plaza is. Is there going to be any impact on any of those trees that would be back there?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. So yeah, shown on this slide here is the land, the aerial map of the subject lands. Highlighted in the red outlines the property boundary. So anything outside of that, it's not within the subject lands and won't be part of this development.
May I ask another question? That's not a follow-up. Yeah, thank you. So additionally, some residents had concerns when they saw the language around no density restrictions. So if you could just speak a little bit to what that actually means on a property of this size in terms of the potential density. And we already saw that the maximum height is 4, but what does that mean in terms of the maximum units that could be allowed here?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. So this approach in this official plan zoning bylaw amendment is aligned with the city's new draft comprehensive zoning bylaw. It's currently in the public consultation phase. I think a final version will be later this year. So the new zoning bylaw is a form-based zoning. So it kind of reduces the amount of residential zones that there are, expands a variety of housing types permitted in the zone, and regulates the built form by things such as minimum and maximum building height, setbacks, parking coverage, etc. So density will be dictated by what can be accommodated with these other regulations rather than the traditional approach of regulating density using a unit per hectare. So in summary, like, this zoning bylaw amendment, you know, if these regulations can be met, will regulate the density. So for example, the applicant is meeting the parking rate that's required in our zoning bylaw, and with the current concept plan, it meets the minimum. So any increase in units they would have to meet that bylaw. So they're kind of constrained with these regulations.
I see no more questions. Thank you. Councillor Roberts, you have the motion?
I do. Thank you, Mayor Jan. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Recommendation that report 25-060-CD, recommendation report for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment 312 St. Andrews Street be received, and that council approves proposed official plan amendment number 92 to add site-specific policy 8.10.126 on the subject lands to remove the maximum density restrictions for the lands, and that council approves the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to amend the zoning of the subject lands from residential R3 to the multiple residential RM3, section 4.1.454, with site-specific provisions to allow a maximum of a 4-story mixed terrace stacked townhouse development, and that council is satisfied with the requirements for a planning or for a public meeting in accordance with subsection 1715 and 3412 of the Planning Act have been met, and further that the bylaws attached to report 25-060-CD be passed.
Thank you. Are there any questions for any other staff members that might be here? Seeing none, any comments? Councillor Cooper?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. I'll be very quick. I just want to say thank you to Scott and to your client. You clearly listened to the residents and council and made great changes to this. I'm happy to support this, and we don't see it that often. Thank you.
Councillor Kimson.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jan, and I'd like to also thank the representative and the developer for listening to residents, Councillor Roberts and other councillors, and making these changes to bring forward something that we can support tonight. So thank you very much.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Leggett, and through you. And just to echo Councillor Cooper and Councillor Kimson, this has my support. Just want to thank Scott and the consultants for listening to council, integrating as many of our concerns as possible. And I think this produces units in a growing area where they're sorely needed. It's directly across from a plaza. The area itself is expanding. I mean, there's a gas station down the road, and it seems like this is the type of builds that could actually really boost, I think, an area like this. So it has my support. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jan. And I too want to thank the residents for working with myself and our developer friends to come up with something that would make it, more livable for you folks and somewhere that you can still enjoy your backyard and your privacy and your peacefulness. So thank you, Scott, and thank you to the residents for working together with us.
As I said earlier, I really appreciate Scott. I know we put you through a little bit lately, so this is a great opportunity for us to commend you for the work that you do with your clients. So, and the residents as well, the fact that you took ownership of this and worked with your counselor, who works very hard on your behalf, and came together to do what was the best that we could all do to create the type of city that we all like to live in. So thank you so much for your input into this. So we'll call for the vote now.
Starting voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
The next item is 9.3.2, Report 25-074 CD, Recommendation Report for Official Plan Amendment and Zoning Bylaw Amendment 387 Greengate Boulevard. Dave Aston from MHBC Planning will provide a presentation tonight. Welcome, Dave.
Good evening, Mayor Jan, members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak briefly this evening. I'm here this evening in support of the staff report related to the subject lands. Since the public meeting, we've been working with staff on some improvements to the site. At the public meeting, there were no resident comments. There were some comments and questions from council that we responded to, and staff have done a good job at taking those into consideration as part of their report in a specific section of their report. So the request being made, and I'm just keeping it on this page, you'll recall last time it was a good one. The request being made tonight is to allow for increase in density and height to allow for mixed terrace or stacked townhouse unit type on the block, and also to request a reduction to the minimum common amenity area. And with this slide, we use this to just outline the location of the site and its context with surrounding area, which includes parks, trails, natural areas, major recreational facility being constructed, access to transit and walkability in a really the Southeast Galt community. And so those really form the rationale for consideration of what's being proposed tonight. There's the official plan amendment that relates to the density, and then there's a zoning bylaw that relates to the increased height, the type of use, and the request for the common amenity area. This was the concept that I showed at the public meeting. Since that time, we worked with staff and looked at an alternative concept in which we maintain the number of units, the same number of bedroom unit count with, 48 one bedroom, 136 two bedroom, so majority 2 bedroom or greater. We maintain the minimum parking requirement of 1.26 spaces per unit. And we actually increased the common amenity area and made it was already central, but we increased it a little bit more with this design. The other thing that the design did was locate parking in a way that will be a little more user-friendly for the residential units. In the previous plan, you'll see it was really pushed all into one large area. And in the updated concept, there's a larger amenity area and there's parking more allocated in proximity to the units. The reduction request for the common amenity area down to 13.5 meters squared per unit from 30, doesn't just come at that as a reduction. What I also want to point out is that each of the units themselves will also have balconies or patios. And when you add that, that's actually another close to 1,300 square meters of amenity space. So the common amenity and the private amenity will kind of work together to provide a broader amenity. And when looking at the total of those two, we're actually up around meeting, 87% of the overall amenity target. So in my opinion, while we're reducing it, we believe we're reducing it in an area where it's justified. There's some good rationale with parks, trails, and other amenities. And then the reduction in combination with a private amenity for each unit still provides each resident with the private space and a common space. And what's shown on this image, kind of central to that amenity, is kind of a gazebo or a pergola, and then a play structure. Just to give you some context of the size of this, it's a large flat area that can accommodate play area and some even flatter open space where people can run around, kick a soccer ball, and then have play space as well. And then on the left side, there's also a common space, which could be more passive, bench and seating area, and that's adjacent to the open space area that's being protected. So we're here supporting the staff recommendation, and we agree with staff that this meets provincial policy and conforms to the city's official plan, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Dave? Wow, you're all scot-free tonight.
It's so nice outside, I think that's why. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Okay. We don't have any, oh yes, we do. Jacqueline, you're up next. I almost missed you. Jacqueline Hanneman, our senior planner, will do a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Liggett, councillors, and all in attendance at tonight's council meeting. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jacqueline Hanneman. I'm a senior planner with the city. I'll do a very brief presentation on the staff recommendation for the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment at 387 Greengate Boulevard. So I don't want to go into too much detail because Dave explained a lot of this already, so I'll try to keep it brief, but the applicant is requesting, as Dave mentioned, an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate a stacked townhouse development, which would include 184 townhouse units, 234 parking spaces, and 2 separate common amenity areas, 1 more passive area, and 1 that would include a parkette for children. So just to not beat this around too much, but the lighter green area on the slide that you're seeing right now is actually the common amenity area, and that's where we're getting the calculation for common amenity area. All the other green space would still be green space, it would still be landscape space. People can still use that as amenity area, but the actual amenity area that we're providing calculations for is the lighter green shade on the slide. So as Dave noted again, this concept plan was revised from what was proposed at the public meeting. So planning staff had asked the developer to increase that amenity area on the property, and they have done this, and we're happy to see that. The original ask was for 11.3 meters squared per unit, and they have increased that to 13.5 per unit. And if I know we've been throwing around a ton of numbers tonight, and I was trying to think of some sort of visual to give you on what exactly is 2,495 square meters of common amenity area. So if you're thinking about a basketball court, 6 full basketball courts would be the comparative size to 24,905 meters squared, or about the same as 9 to 10 tennis courts. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at in that size. I'm a visual person, so I just thought I'd throw that out there because that helps me when I'm looking at sizing. So the official plan amendment would permit the increased density to 87 units per hectare. The zoning bylaw amendment would permit the increased density, the maximum building height of 4 stories, and the reduced common amenity area. There were no comments from the public at the meeting, and there was no written correspondence sent to me from the public. Council did have some questions and comments during the public meeting that have been addressed in the staff report. I'll run through them briefly. There was discussions about noise in relation to the future East Boundary Road. Those noise source, that potential future East Boundary Road noise source, was addressed through the previous zoning bylaw amendment and plan of subdivision process. And through those processes, the noise study recommended noise warning clauses in all agreements of purchase and sales for home within the subdivision. So that includes everything in Moffat Creek subdivision, including this block and the future homes proposed on these lands that we're discussing tonight. They'd be implemented through future site plan process and plan of condominium process. Will there be a trail connection to the new rec complex? There is a multi-use trail already that's built on Wesley Boulevard, running from Fitzgerald Drive along Wesley Boulevard. It will connect to the future East Boundary Road, and this trail will provide direct access to the future recreation complex and the joint school campus. Will there be sidewalks on the development? Sidewalks have been proposed on the concept plan. They will be required through site plan process. They are located internal to the site and in front of all the buildings that connect parking areas to the building and to Green Gate Boulevard. Will there be any encroachment on the open space land around the subject property? No, the proposed development will be fully contained on the block. No trees or vegetations are proposed to be removed from the open space zone between the homes on Wesley Boulevard and the subject site, as well as the core environmental feature that surrounds the block. I would also note that the developer will be required to install fencing along the entire property line between both properties, the development site and the natural area, to provide some separation between those two areas and some protection of the natural area. As Dave mentioned, there will be a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom units on this site, and that accessible units would be considered through the site plan process, and as always, planning staff will ask that question again at site plan process and see what we can get. So planning staff recommend approval of the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, since the applications are consistent with provincial, regional, and city policy, and they will create additional housing stock that has been designed to complement, enhance, and complete the surrounding neighborhood. And I think that's it, unless you have any questions for me.
Does anyone have any questions here? Okay, I see none, but I'm going to ask you a question, Jacqueline. Six Nations was consulted on this?
As of right now, planning staff do not have a clear direction on how to engage First Nations at the city level.
Mr. Bromberg, could you comment on that, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the rest of Council, City of Cambridge has been participating in discussions with the other local municipality planning heads, and we've assigned 2 planning heads to coordinate a protocol for what that consultation will look like for all planning applications, and we're in the final throes of developing that. We would expect at some point in the beginning of August that we'll be implementing the protocol in terms of engagement for the planning applications with Six Nations, and it will be consistent throughout the region. Thank you.
So for this project, that will be part of that consultation?
This is the end of the planning process, so this project will fall outside of those protocols. It would be for future planning applications.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, you have that motion.
Thank you, Mayor Liggett. And through you, it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Kimson. The recommendation that report 25-074-CD for recommendation report for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment 387 Greengate Boulevard be received, and that council approves the proposed official plan amendment number 93 to establish site-specific policy 8.10.127 to increase the maximum density to 87 units per hectare, and that council approves the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to amend the existing site-specific regulations of RM4 multiple residential S.4.1.407 zone to permit the development of 184 stacked townhouse units. And that council is satisfied that the requirements for a public meeting in accordance with subsections 17(15) and 34(17) of the Planning Act have been met. And further, that the bylaws attached to report 25-074-CD be passed.
Are there any questions? I have another question, Mr. Bromberg, to do with the consultation. Are we within, is this property within the number of miles that we are required to consult?
Not exactly sure if it falls within that or not, but the protocol would be for all planning applications within the city of Cambridge that we would engage with, or at least consult with, Six Nations on.
It's 6 miles on either side of the Grand. So, okay, this is the reason I ask this is because this is a wetland area, is Moffat Creek. And I'm concerned of the fact that we've been waiting for complete regional protocol to be created, policies, when we should have been doing our own consulting. So I'm not going to support this, even though I'd love to support it. That's the reason I'm not going to support it, because there was no proper consultation done. Okay, we'll call for the vote.
Starting voting. Closing voting. And that carries 7-1.
Okay, so next up is our final item number 25-090 CD report KIN1 ball diamond accessibility improvements and debt funding bylaw. And Councillor Schwer, you have that motion?
Thank you, Mayor Liggett. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kimson, that report 2590 CD KIN1 ball diamond accessibility improvements and capital funding bylaw be received, and that the capital project A/005740 accessible ball diamond construction be fully funded from debt in the amount of $3,025,000, and further that the associated debt bylaw attached to report 25090 CD as Appendix A be passed.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor Jan. I guess it would be Shane, probably. So I just have a question about the plans for sponsorship. So I know the report spoke to the fact that we were looking to get 1.5 million potentially in sponsorship, and sort of the wording of this sounds like it's going to be entirely debt funded, but can you just speak a little bit to what is actively happening right now to get sponsorship for this project?
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Mayor. Staff are actively pursuing sponsorship opportunities as well as donations. We currently have got a donations portal up live as of, I believe it's last week or the week before. So it's still pretty fresh out there, but it is now live, and we are now accepting donations through our Play It Forward campaign, as well as we are actively speaking with potential sponsors, naming sponsors for the facility. We don't have anything firmly locked up at the moment, but we have been having some conversations, and those conversations do seem to be going positively. In addition to that, staff are going to be applying for another round of grant funding. We did apply last fall, I believe it was October when we submitted, or no, later in the fall when we submitted an application to Jay's Care. We did get feedback from Jay's Care that we were not successful in that grant application. However, they did encourage us to apply again this year because we'll be closer to construction and or in construction at the time, and so they wanted that assurance, it sounded like. They wanted that assurance that the project was actually moving forward before we got the funding. So that's kind of my update on where we're at in all of those aspects.
Councillor Schwery.
Thank you, Mayor Liggett. This question is for Sheena, and I fully support this. But I just want, in the spirit of transparency, so the taxpayers do know what it's going to cost, the $3,025,000, what will it cost taxpayers when you include interest rate?
Thank you. Through the mayor, the $3,025,000 equates to approximately $3,823,000. That's over a 10-year term, assuming an average annual interest rate of about 4.5%.
Thank you.
I see no more questions here. Thanks, Shane. Okay. I'm going to ask the clerk to call for the vote now.
And starting voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
Next up is other business. Does any member of council have any other business they wish to bring forward? Seeing none. Our next order of business is the motion to receive. May I please have the mover read the motion in its entirety? Councillor Schwery.
Thank you, Mayor Liggett. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton, that all presentations and correspondence from the July 22nd, 2025 council meeting be received.
Thank you. We will take the vote now.
Starting voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
Councillor Hamilton, you have the consideration of bylaws.
Thank you, Mayor Liggett, and through you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cooper. The recommendation that the following bylaws listed under the heading of Introduction and Consideration of Bylaws be enacted and passed. 25-042 being a bylaw of the Corporation of the City of Cambridge to amend Bylaw 62 as amended, being a bylaw with respect to parking, private property. 25-043 being a bylaw to amend Bylaw 22-044, being a bylaw to regulate traffic and parking on highways under the jurisdiction of the Corporation of the City of Cambridge. 25-044 being a bylaw of the City of Cambridge to amend the designation bylaw for the property located at 90 Old Mill Road, Sheave Tower, as a property of cultural heritage value. 25-045 being a bylaw of the Corporation of the City of Cambridge to adopt Amendment Number 92 of the City of Cambridge Official Plan in 2012 as amended with respect to land municipally known as 312 St. Andrews Street. 25-046 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 150-85 as amended with respect to land municipally known as 312 St. Andrews Street. 25-047 being a bylaw of the Corporation of the City of Cambridge to adopt Amendment Number 93 of the City of Cambridge Official Plan 2012 as amended with respect to land municipally known as 387 Greengate Boulevard. 25-048 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 150-85 as amended with respect to land municipally known as 387 Greengate Boulevard. 25-049 being a bylaw of the Corporation of the City of Cambridge to authorize the issuance of debentures for the rehabilitation of existing assets and construction of new assets contained in the capital funding program.
Thank you. We will call for that vote now.
Starting voting. Closing voting. And that carries unanimously.
Councillor Devine, you have the confirmatory bylaw.
Yes, moved by myself, second by Councilor Romero. That bylaw 25050 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Cambridge be passed.
Okay, we will take that vote now.
Starting voting. Closing voting. That carries unanimously.
So we have now reached the end of our agenda, and the final order of business is the closing of the meeting. And Councillor Kimpson, you have that motion tonight.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jan. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cooper. Recommendation that the council meeting does now adjourn at 8 p.m.
Okay, we'll take that vote.
Starting voting. Closing voting. Carries unanimously.
Great job, everybody.